Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Property Management 101, and for today's video, we'll be discussing and answering the question, where's the limit with involving owners, and how to prevent them from overstepping this position. This situation is much more common on the single-family side of the industry compared to multifamily investors. Multifamily investors tend to look at their assets that you may be managing on their behalf as truly more of an investment. On the single-family side, oftentimes the owners of those properties and assets tend to have a lot more emotions involved. Maybe they lived in the home personally, maybe they're planning on moving back into the home. But in either scenario, it's much more common that single-family management companies experience owners trying to overstep and be more involved in the day-to-day operations on the single-family side compared to the multifamily side. This does occur on the multifamily side, just not nearly as often. Let me start by saying less owner involvement is the best thing for all parties involved. For residents, less owner involvement will allow that property management company or property manager to get back to them much quicker. It also ensures that that resident actually has a good point of contact where they know, hey, I'm not going to an owner and a property manager. They know they have a single point of contact for anything that they need to address. Also, the benefit for the resident is that they know that that employee who's probably trained and educated on fair housing laws, tenant landlord laws, and the real estate commission in that local area, where you may have an investor that's not as likely to be trained in those areas as that property management company. For property managers, less owner involvement will really help as far as the time frame that they are going to get back to residents, as well as avoid some outside pressure that they would receive from an owner regarding the day-to-day operations and decisions for their property. This is also something to keep in mind where by getting this outside pressure, you're more likely to have a situation where you may violate fair housing rules, tenant landlord laws, or the real estate commission. From an owner's point of view, by trusting your property manager to manage their asset without your involvement, it is going to be the best thing for all parties as this is what you hired them to do. In this video, we're going to be discussing some different suggestions and different things to keep in mind to avoid having the dynamic of an owner overstepping their position and involved with the day-to-day operations of their property. The first best practice that I would recommend to avoid owners overstepping their position is be prepared. Oftentimes, when you have a conversation with an owner, if they start to feel like you're not prepared, they're going to start to feel like they have to get involved in those situations. Ensuring that you're prepared for every meeting with that owner or for any scenarios that are happening at their properties will really allow that owner to feel, okay, I hired a good property management company or a good property manager. I can trust them. They have my best interests in mind. And it is a situation where this is going to be something you want to start that credibility with that owner as soon as possible in that relationship. If you don't have all your data points and if you don't have all your thoughts regarding a situation, that owner is going to feel more like they need to be involved. And maybe they want to be involved, but they're definitely going to feel like they have to be involved if you're not ready to have those conversations. Now, if it is a situation where that owner contacts you out of the blue and you're not aware or have given thought to that situation, it is perfectly acceptable for you to say to that owner, please allow me to look into some things and give this some thought, and I'll follow back up with you as far as my position on this topic. That is a perfectly acceptable answer. Now, it is a situation where if it's something you should be aware of by that point, you want to make sure you are aware of it. Sometimes owners will contact you about things that you didn't even have the chance or opportunity to review. If an event happens at your property where that owner is contacted by maybe the police or an HOA or by a neighbor, and you have not addressed that problem yet or situation yet, it is something where those are exactly the type of situations where an owner is likely to contact you. What's going on? What is the plan? So you want to make sure these types of situations you're addressing very quickly and you have your plan rolled out very quickly because the owner is likely to contact you in these situations. If you don't have a plan or if you haven't not addressed this at all yet, this is another time where an owner is going to feel like they have to step in these type of situations. By being prepared for these conversations and situations, with having your data points, will really start to allow that owner to really trust you and build the credibility in that relationship, and less likely that they're going to feel like they have to be involved down the road. The second best practice that I would keep in mind to avoid owners overstepping is set clear expectations in that management agreement that you have with that owner. So for anything that you need owner involvement in versus things that you don't want to have owner involvement in or gives you the full authority in, you need to make sure these type of topics and situations and subjects are clearly outlined in your management agreement that you execute with that owner. On topics, for example, like work orders, move-out charges, renewal rates, or the application process, these are subjects that you want to clearly outline in your management agreement what you need from that owner as far as involvement and what authority you have as far as the property manager. Now, if you don't outline things like this, the owner is going to feel like they have to be involved or you're asking them to be involved. So it's really important for every situation that could come up, you outline what authority you have as a property manager versus what you need from them as an owner. Hopefully this is something that the owner reviews in that management agreement they execute with you, but this is something I would recommend as the property manager or the property management company. When you're onboarding a new owner, you outline and talk about this section in the management agreement. This is really important because if it does come up later on, you don't want to have the situation that that owner says, I didn't know that, or we didn't review that. You want to make sure it's clearly outlined. It's not something that's buried in that management agreement. And you want to ensure that if you do have to reference it, if you have a situation where they're overstepping, that you do remind them, hey, as per the management agreement that you've executed with us, this is something that does give us full authority to handle. And in order for us to efficiently run the property and to ensure that we're positioning the property to maximize your profits and to not put the property liable for any fair housing issues or any other type of situations that we're regulated by, you want to make sure you remind them of these parts of the management agreement that they've executed. I hope so far you're enjoying this video and you're learning something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. And the last best practice to keep in mind to avoid owners overstepping is know when it is too much. There will always be owners that want to be involved more than it's outlined in your management agreement or more than you prefer as the property manager. There's never a situation where one owner is worth a dynamic where if they're pushing back and potentially putting the property manager or the property management company at risk to violate tenant landlord laws, fair housing laws, or the real estate commission laws, there's never a situation where that is worth it. So know when you need to terminate that agreement with that owner. And again, you never want to put that management company at risk for a single owner, even if they have multiple assets under management with you. And for the video recap today, keep in mind these 3 practices to avoid having an owner overstepping when it comes to their involvement. Number 1, be prepared. Make sure you're prepared for every conversation that you have with that owner. Number 2, outline these expectations in the management agreement. You want to make sure when you need their involvement and when you do have the authority, this is outlined in that management agreement. And number 3, know when it's too much. If you get a situation where that owner's pushing back, putting you as the property manager or the company at risk to violate some things that you're regulated by, know when it's too much and terminate that agreement. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If so, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for future videos. If you have any questions about this video or any of my videos, feel free to leave a comment. I'll be happy to address it for you. And if you haven't connected to our LinkedIn account and our Instagram page, please make sure you do so for industry news, polls, and video releases. If you haven't also watched our disclosure and our why I do this, please make sure you watch those videos before putting any of these practices into place. Happy leasing!